What's up everyone, Vu of Envu Films, and I am back with another idiotic video for you to watch. And today, this idiotic video, I'm just gonna compare the Sony a7S III 1080p footage to the Sony a7 III 1080p footage to see if the a7S III is actually any better, because as a lot of us may know, shooting Sony a7 III for all these years, that the 1080p is not the greatest, especially when we compare it to the 4K of the a7 III. There's a massive difference in quality. And from what I've heard, Sony a7S III's 1080p is actually a 4K downsample to 1080 within camera, so I want to put it to the test. I ended up doing this test on the Sony a7 III and a7S III using S-Log3 because it is the best picture profile for the Sony a7S III, and I want to make sure that I'm using the best possible profile for the Sony a7S III to compare against the a7 III. And at this point, I would like to apologize to all of you who had watched my previous video saying that do not shoot S-Log3 in low light. I was completely undone by Gerald last night when I saw his video, and I was like, oh crap, I'm a YouTube douchebag that does not know what I am doing. So I deleted that S-Log3 low light video faster than a Canon ESR5 overheating shooting 8K in the wintertime. So with that being said, I'd like to apologize for giving you the incorrect information. And to be quite honest, I'm learning just as you are. So I'm just doing my test, as much as I know, and I'm just sharing the information out there, and I'm not afraid to admit that I am completely incorrect. But one thing I'm always correct on 100% of the time is that Canon is trash, and that is all. So let's get on to the test, shall we? So what I did was I tested Sony a7S III in 1080p XAVCS 10-bit 422 S-Log3, as well as 1080p 60 frames per second XAVC-SI, and of course, I just did 4K 60p just to see how much better 4K is compared to 1080. And on the Sony a7 III, I did 1080p XAVCS 8-bit 420 because that's all you can do. And the results are pretty wild. I knew from other YouTubers that the 1080p in the Sony a7S III is a lot better, but now comparing it side to side, the a7 III looks like absolute dumpster trash. And I just cannot believe this is what I've been filming with for client work, wedding work for the past two and a half years. Or more than that, even 4 years, I've been using 1080p on Sony. And sadly, Sony 1080p is actually better than most of the 1080ps of Canon and what have you. And this is based on what I've seen, okay? Again, if you could prove me wrong, that's fine. But from what I've seen, is Sony 1080p is actually better than Canon's. Maybe not better than Fuji's and Nikon's. I haven't really seen that stuff, or GH5, but that's what a lot of us have been using. And that's how bad it looks compared to the a7S III's 1080p. This might be just a testament to how good the a7S III is, but this is what you're buying, okay? $3,500, you are buying this quality 1080p versus what the a7 III offers, versus what the a7C offers, etc., etc. Now, some may think that I am trashing the a7 III. No, I still own 2 of them, and I'm still gonna use them for my B, C, D cams for weddings and other things, and other shoots that require me to have multiple cameras. So I'm not trying to hate on this camera. Matter of fact, I would love it to be awesome, but just looking at this comparison, it is complete rubbish in 1080 compared to the Sony a7S III, and it's not even close. On top of that, the Sony a7S III is obviously 10-bit 422, so you're getting better colors, better just everything overall. And you get to use S-Log3 without any problems, versus on the Sony a7 III, if you want like the best overall picture profile, you can't use log and 8-bit most of the time due to like the color issues, banding, and all that stuff. So you're stuck with HLG3. HLG stands for hung low genitals, because when you're shooting HLG3, the a7 III, you feel like you got some big saggy genitals because you're getting all this dynamic range. It looks really good. It has a low base ISO. You're like, dang, this is really sweet, until you compare it to something like a Sony a7S III with 10-bit 422 S-Log3, and it looks like complete trash. So right now, if you're wondering, hey, look, is the Sony a7S III worth it? I mean, yes, for a video shooter, right now, if you're thinking for a video shooter, is a Sony a7S III worth it over the a7 III for video shooters? Yes, 100%. Because not only is the 1080p better, the 4K, maybe not as sharp as the a7 III with its, downsampled 6K, but you do get 4K 60p, 4K 120p, and of course 10-bit 422, and you get the full use of 10-bit, full use of S-Log3 and all that dynamic range glory that the Sony a7S III has to offer. And of course the better autofocus system, all that jazz. And just, a couple other comparisons. The Sony a7S III's 1080p and XAVCS versus XAVC-SI, there's not really any difference here. So the extra, bit rate doesn't really make a big difference in terms of detail. And here is 4K versus 1080p on the Sony a7S III. And as detailed and as nice as the 1080p is on the Sony a7S III, the 4K is obviously better. So if you have the capability, if you have the SD card, and if you are able, your computer is able to handle it, definitely shoot 4K 60p on the Sony a7S III to get the maximum quality. That's a no-brainer. But hey, look, that 1080p for the Sony a7 III is legit. Like, that is a really good 1080p. Especially if, we've been pretty satisfied for the past 4 or 5 years of Sony's a7 III, a6600, 65, 6400, 6300, a7R3's 1080p, then we're definitely will be blown away by the quality of the Sony a7S III's 1080p. And that's about it. So again, thank you for watching. I apologize for giving you bad information about S-Log3 not being a good low light picture profile. Definitely use S-Log3 as much as you can. Just make sure you watch Gerald Undone's video. I'll link in the description about all the picture profiles on the Sony a7S III, how to use them, how to get the most out of them. And clearly S-Log3 is the best profile period on the Sony a7S III. And I hope this video was helpful. I hope it helped. Maybe if you're a Sony a7 III shooter looking to see if the a7S III is worth it, 100% yes, especially if you are a video shooter. If you're primarily a photographer and you want to do some like BTS videos or YouTube videos here and there, the a7 III is fine, especially 4K. But gosh, I will never shoot 1080p on the a7 III ever again. Not only because I have a Sony a7S III, but just looking at how it looked compared, it looks like Canon footage, but a little bit better. Anyways, guys, if you like this video, please give it a like. And if you want to see more, please subscribe. It definitely helps a lot. Till next time, bye now.